Hello, everyone. This is West here with this week's lesson. Last week, we talked about the element of value in art. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. You should have finished a grayscale and a cube on your worksheet last week. This week, we're going to talk about what you should add to a color to make it lighter or darker. And we will use the terms tints and shades. When you lighten a color, you do so by adding white to it. Adding white to a color is called tinting a color. When we say adding white on paper, we talk about letting more of the white paper show through. So this is the actual color. This is the light tint because it's showing a lot of the white paper through it. Now, when you darken a color, you add black to it. Adding black to a color is called shading a color. Black makes shades and white makes tints. And today you're going to make a color value scale instead of a grayscale. We're going to use a worksheet that's similar to the one you used last week. And the supplies you're going to need are a printout of the worksheet, colored pencils or crayons, and that's it. So let's get started. This sample here, I used crayons, just these two crayons, blue and black. On this sample, which is the shortened version, which you don't do unless you have permission to do this one, I've used the colored pencils. Now, I prefer the colored pencils because I feel like I have more control with them. It's easier to stay inside the boxes. With the crayons, the crayon doesn't get a point like a pencil, so it ends up going outside of the box, which isn't a big deal. Whatever you have at home, you use pencils, colored pencils, or crayons. So I'm going to do the example today using the colored pencils. Okay, here's my worksheet, and I am going to use the color red. Now, inside the middle box, I want you to color that in pretty much as dark as you can with your pencil or crayon, whichever you're using, because this is the actual color. This is going to be the actual color without black and without white. So you're probably going to have to rub pretty hard because you want that color to be nice and solid. And your hands might get a little tired after a while. But it is what it is. Okay, so I'm trying to cover up all the white in there. And because I'm rubbing so hard, my camera's wiggling all over the place. So that's not my table shaking, it's my camera shaking. Okay, so this is pretty dark. That's pretty good. Okay. I like that pretty well. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is the lightest tint. Now, I could cheat and say, okay, the lightest tint is white. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to make the lightest tint by very lightly rubbing my pencil over it. And so that you can see a lot of white paper coming through. Looks a little pinkish because that's what pink is. It's a tint. It's red with a lot of white added to it, makes pink. Okay, so I have this very light tint. Then I have the actual color. I'm going to make an in-between color that has less white in it than this one. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of work to figure out how to make that in-between color. You're going to have to go over it a couple of times, but certainly not as hard as you were pressing on this one. You want to see a difference between the middle one and the first one. Okay, that's pretty good. It's certainly not as dark as the middle one, and it's definitely not as light as the first one. Now it's going to get a little more complicated. Well, not really, because now you're going to use two different pencils. Now, we're going to do number 4 here next. And again, I want you to fill this box in dark like that box. Okay, so it's going to be a lot more hard rubbing. And your pencil is going to be noticing that. You're going to be losing a lot of your point. So hopefully you were all sharpened up before you started so that you don't have to stop again to sharpen. Okay, those two are pretty close. Now I'm going to take my black pencil and I'm going to lightly put a layer of black over this so that you can still see a lot of the red. Okay, it's still red, but it's a dark red. It's a shaded red. And I'm doing layers so that I don't get too dark too fast. And I can always go over this and make it darker again, but I think I might be happy with this for now. Put a little red on top. Okay, you can keep on doing layers of red and black if you like, or whatever your color is. You might not pick red. Okay, now for the last one, I'm going to put the black on first. And I'm going to go pretty dark. I'm not going to press as hard as I was pressing with the red, but I'm going to go fairly dark. It's kind of experimenting a little bit, which is so much of what we do in art all the time, is experimenting. Because if you don't experiment, then you're not going to be excited about doing new work. Have to experiment so that you can see what's out there and what you can do. Okay. So it's not the darkest black, but it's pretty darn dark. Okay, here comes my red pencil again. Now, I hope the camera is picking this up, because some cameras are better than others, but I'm hoping that you can see the red on top of this black. So it's going to look like a really, really dark, 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 dark red. A red that's in a shadow. If you had a red ball and you put it in a dark place where it had lots of shadows on it, maybe you could still see a little bit of the red, but it would seem awfully dark. Okay, now I can see this red color in here, but like I say, I'm not sure you can. Ooh, look, I got red all over my hand. If you wanted to, you could of course use a piece of paper to protect that, but I have not done that. Okay, so here's my really, really, really dark red. Okay, so there we go. Here's our actual red color. There it is with a bit of white in it. Here it is with loads of white in it. Here it is with a little bit of black on it, and here it is with a lot of black on it. Now, I would like you to do the cube as well. I'm not going to fill in the cube right now, but this one, let me show you this one. I'm going to fold it. Okay, so for the top color, I use the strong red. For this side color, which is going to be in shadow, I use the slightly darker red. And for the front, I use the lightest red. So that gives you a look of something that is three-dimensional. Okay, so I would like you to do that for this week. We end a little earlier next week. We end next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So that's when this project will be due for next week. And when we get back from vacation, we're going to do a project which puts all this knowledge we just gained about values to use in a picture. So, we'll be through with the worksheets and we'll start on our project. So, I am looking forward to seeing what you do. I'll be curious to see if most of you use crayon or pencil. Like I said, it's up to you, and it's up to what you have at home. Even though we are remote now, if need be, I can get some materials to the school if you need them, but then you would have to pick them up. So let me know if there is anything that you need, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.